Hey, good evening. I believe since part of the group isn't here and only three of us are here, I don't think it's appropriate to do the flag salute since we don't have a full complement, but certainly we acknowledge our loyalty to the flag. The agenda was posted at the San Marino City Hall, the San Marino Public Library, the Recreation Department, and of course, it's on the San Marino website. For those of us listening in who haven't been here before, we received the plans, we received staff comment, and we then go out and visit the site. So we have a full complement of knowledge as to what each application is about. As these hearings progress, what happens is we ask staff for a brief summary of the application. We then ask for the applicant or the applicant's representative to come forward and just concisely give us a summation of things that they wanted to point out. We would then ask if anyone in the audience wishes to speak for, against, or about the proposal. And once that has occurred, we close the public aspect of the hearing and we go through each of the commissioners and ask for their comments. And at the conclusion of that, we would then ask for whether anyone on the commission has a motion to make, either for or against or about the particular application. In any event, we have been having short calendars. We have one today, so this should move fairly quickly. In the event of an application that is granted and approved, what happens is that the application itself becomes the law of the property, and that any changes made are made in derogation of that law and involve the penalty of 5% of the project valuation, or $2,500. So hopefully anyone submitting applications would have thought through their application, thought through whether they really want any kind of change made during the hearing, and if it's accepted, understand that that is the law of the application. There's a 15-day appeal period in case of a denial or an acceptance where some third party is not happy with that acceptance of the motion. We're just going to go forward. We also engage in what's called public comments, where you can comment on anything that has nothing to do with what's already on the agenda. However, we keep these public comments, as we keep almost all the commentary here, to a 3-minute cap. So let me begin by asking if anyone wishes to make any public comment on things that are not on the application.
I believe we do have one member of the public who wishes to make a public comment, and they filled out a request to speak card, but may I please take attendance before we start that?
Oh, of course. I'm sorry. I see we got a flight of birds coming around.
So just quickly for the attendance, Chair Brody.
Yeah, I think we have 2 excused absences. Commissioner Chow and Commissioner Boyle will not make it today. And so if we could just do a quick roll call of those present, I'd appreciate it. Thank you for bringing that up.
Sure. Chair Brody,
Present.
Vice Chair Chang,
Present.
Committee Member Dustin,
Here.
Commissioner Dustin, sorry, Commissioner Wright,
Here.
and alternate Commissioner James Okazaki.
Here.
Okay, very well. All right, again, focusing in on the public comment aspect, do we have anyone who wishes to make a less than 3-minute public comment?
Sir, if you'd like to make a public comment,
I said 3.
sorry, 3 minutes. If you'd like to speak at the podium over there to talk.
Just state your name and address, please.
Name is Alfred Scally.
I'm at 13301 William Street in North Hollywood. I'm here to for roofing. I'm a roofing contractor. I've been doing it 47 years. They say I got more experience than anybody in the state of California. Plus, I help with the contractor board with questions and answers and tests. So we're trying to get this job, 2250 Melville Drive in San Marino. We want to take off the wood shakes, put down plywood, and put down a lifetime presidential TL roof. So it's a fiberglass shingle. It's basically top of the line. You guys don't approve this shingle, and that's why we're here today to try to get the presidential TL shingle on this roof if possible. If not, they have to, whatever you have available, which is the Da Vinci plastic shake. I don't know why anybody would want plastic on their roofs. This will fail. Owens Corning had that and it did fail. It was out in 2 years. So I won't even put the Da Vinci on anybody's roof. The tile can be done. It's a lightweight tile because of the framework. It's a 2x6 framework. Today requires 2x8, 16 on center, or 2x10, 2 foot on center to do tile. Slate roof can go on. Synthetic synthetic is just a poor quality material. And the 2-piece tile is fine. But I have samples over there of the different ones. The heavyweight tile is way too heavy for that roof. So
Excuse me, Chair, are you public comment, meaning you want to talk about something that's not on the agenda? Because you sound like you're discussing our item 1 that is
this is, yeah.
on
No,
the
this is,
agenda.
he said this, the address is 2280 Melville.
Melville, I understand, but then I think that's why I'm asking to
Oh.
clarify, because you sound like you're talking in support of the item that is on our agenda. I'm just asking to clarify.
Well, yeah, it's the design review committee application is for the presidential, and it's 2250 Melville Drive.
So
We've
it's,
been trying to get a permit for that.
Okay, well, 1 second. If you'd like to talk about that and specifically reference the presidential, what Commissioner Jerry is saying is absolutely correct. Why don't you have a seat, and when the issue comes up and the issue is presidential, you then could speak, I imagine, for it.
All right, thank you. All right,
Okay, sure.
you got it.
he doesn't.
Okay.
It's sort of 6 of one, half dozen the other. I was just a little
It's all right.
confused, but
It's okay.
I-
It's no biggie.
yeah, either way,
All right.
are you bothered by that?
No, I mean, yeah, it's just different, but yeah.
You want him to finish as public comment? I'm fine with that. It just sounded very much like it was in support of item number 1 to me. But if you would like to continue.
I just want to provide clarification that it seems like you would like to submit design review committee action for a potential property to have composition shingles, which staff can discuss with you separately. I was under the impression you wanted to talk about a variety of roofing materials.
The variety that you have available.
Yeah, so we wouldn't be able to approve what you're asking for
I
tonight.
think really what the point of his discussion is really that he feels there should be in additional items included in the roofing materials list. Although
That's item 2.
it does pertain to a personal case, and so I think if anything, maybe we should just allow him to speak in the second item where he can then introduce
Yeah,
what
that
items he would like.
sounds like a perfectly
Right.
intelligent way
Even
to
better,
proceed.
item 2.
Okay.
Yes, thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you for the
Okay, thank you.
clarification.
Just hang in there.
And I'm sorry.
No, there's nothing to be sorry about. Okay, if we may have a staff report on item 1, which is a design review case, DR 22-11.
Definitely. I just wanted to clarify, we had another member of the public walk in. Did you want to speak on any item not on the agenda? Okay. So for item number 1. This is for 1405 through 1411 Circle Drive. This project was originally heard before the design review committee several times, and the last meeting being on September 7th, 2022, where the DRC voted to deny the project in regards to concerns that the composition shingle that the applicant is proposing to install is not compatible with the neighborhood. The applicant is proposing to install a CertainTeed presidential TL in charcoal black color on a house that currently has natural slate roof. This property was identified on the citywide historic resource survey report, but staff believes that it was incorrectly identified as the home was a new home built in 1996, and the historic resource report was based off of the previous residence. Staff is recommending, as we found all the findings for this project, is recommending continuance for guidance from previously the DRC, but now the Planning Commission, on how to move forward when a project in a neighborhood has a variety of roofing materials, but doesn't specifically have composition shingle. Therefore, neighborhood compatibility, it could be seen as compatible with the variety, but not necessarily with the single material that they're inquiring about or asking about. Therefore, staff is recommending continuance on guidance on that definition. I'm available to answer any questions, and the applicant is also online to speak on his project as well.
Okay, first, does anyone on the commission wish to ask staff any questions? Yeah, okay, Commissioner John, what do you have?
So I'm gonna start off with my normal thing about my concerns with the reactive code enforcement. Again, the subject property that for this case, I just noticed when I was there. In that district area, hedges in the front yard are limited to the height of the fence behind the hedge. There's a 7-foot fence and a 15-foot hedge. So that is a concern of mine. I just wanted to call attention to staff. There's a typographical error. This has been on here a long time, but I just caught it on the pre-approved roofing materials list. It's Da Vinci DA, not Da Vinci DE. And then I wanted to ask for some clarification on attachment 4. Is that part of the historical assessment that was done? Is that where that came from?
Yes.
Okay, now I understand. And then lastly, I'm still not really clear. You mentioned it in your report again on. I'm confused. Your recommendations seem to be recommending approval, but they also seem to be recommending a continuance. And I'm not really clear on what staff is asking for on that.
So one of the things that was impressed on me when I started was that there are certain times where staff would bring projects to the Planning Commission without a recommendation to seek guidance. In this case, as the staff report indicates, there's a variety of roofing materials, a variety of architectural styles. So it seems that if you were to include a composition asphalt shingle on this particular property, it would be compatible in the sense that there's not one single style or at least two styles. There's an eclectic style. So in that case, what would be the preference of the Planning Commission in terms of how to guide staff in situations as this? And that's the reason why we do feel that this project meets the findings.
Right.
But again, DRC did deny this project on neighborhood compatibility. Obviously, the applicant is seeking an appeal on that decision. And staff is doing the same thing it did with DRC, which is seek guidance.
Okay, that makes sense. Thanks. Those were all my questions.
Okay, very well. Any other questions? Okay, hearing none. Is the applicant or applicant's representative here and ready to make a brief presentation?
Yes, Chris Brown is present.
Okay, please, Mr. Brown, go ahead.
Good evening, commissioners. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you today. This has so far been quite the interesting meeting, especially with us being the #1 topic on the agenda this evening. In the public comment section, there was I don't know this gentleman, but I can tell you that his presentation and what he was discussing is exactly the same thing that we're here to discuss and what we're appealing. Let me just state that the there's a real purpose for us replacing the roof on this home, and it is not voluntary. There is a slate roof on that facility that has failed. The slate is broken and it's sliding down and it's dangerous. And this also, or could be dangerous, excuse me. And this also leads to the opportunity for water penetration. So time really has been of the essence as we've gone through this process. We originally investigated the requirements of the city and went through the process of selecting the material based on the guidance and the pre-approved materials that that applied to this project. We then received staff report that had indicated that our application was in compliance with the guidance that they had been given, which indicated that based on our architectural style, we could make an application for the material in which we did, and this was denied. So while the home is a nice lot, I don't think that it has any more prominence than any other home in the neighborhood. And I think that there is, and I'm just saying these words because these were repeated to me by the design review committee. So it's a nice home. It's on a nice lot. The architecture is what it is, and the material that they've selected meets their standard as the owner standard. As the gentleman spoke before, the option is to put a plastic piece of material that has no more dimension at all than what we're requesting to get approval on. The secondary option would be a tile. And if we go to a tile, then we have to go through and review whether or not the actual structure will support the tile. So we're really getting kind of all kinds of mixed messages from the city. They're saying, yes, we believe this is an approved material. They're saying, this material's on the list, and yeah, but you can't use it. And there's no real reason that we can that we understand why we can't use it, other than kind of an arbitrary. I don't really like that kind of tile from the design review board. It's very arbitrary. Given the fact that the roof has failed or is in the process of failing, and this is supposed to be a lifetime roof, the owner is already has a monetary constraint for something that's unexpected, and it's a large amount of money that will have to be invested into this project. One of the things that was noticed as we went through design review was, and though it states on the city's website, what the design review board is there to do and take care of the certain needs of the constituents. Clearly it says that they are there to help with the financial component as well. And yet when this was brought to their attention, there was no consideration at all made for any kind of financial consideration by the design review board. This is a big project. It's a big roof. It's a large sum of money. In order to meet the standard that it seemed that the design review board was indicating that they wanted, which was the Da Vinci plastic roof system. That triples the amount of money that needs to be spent on the project, an already very large sum getting tripled. So I don't think the design review board, we don't believe the design review board actually followed the edict of what they're supposed to be doing for their constituent. We've met the standard that was set by the city with reference to the specifications for the roof tile. Staff reviewed our submittal and approved it. And we are appealing that decision because of these reasons. Thank you very much for your time, and I'd be happy to answer any questions if there are any that need to be answered.
Any questions? Yeah, Commissioner Jerry?
Thank you. I just want to clarify for the record. So you're saying that natural slate would not be an option for this roof?
There is a natural slate roof on that roof at this currently.
Understood.
It's failing, and natural slate is not on the selected materials list.
Yeah.
So we haven't even considered that, though I don't even think that we would want to go back with a failed material.
Thank you. That's why I wanted to clarify that. And secondly, just for my curiosity, and if you know, how long have the owners owned this property?
I was part of the due diligence of the purchase in, I want to say 2015.
Thank you. Or thereabouts.
That's the best of my recollection. I mean, off the cuff.
Curious. Thank you.
Yes.
Any other questions of the applicant? Yeah.
I have a few, if you don't mind. Can you tell me what alternate roofing products were evaluated by the property owner?
Oh, yes, there are two. There's basically two types of material and two different manufacturers. So the Da Vinci guys, they make the plastic material that is a slate look-alike, kind of. I mean, up close, it doesn't look anything like it. When it's 30 feet in the air, maybe it does. It's not a very organic looking product, that's for sure, which slate should be. But and then there's a lightweight concrete tile, and Da Vinci is one of the approved vendors there. And then there's another manufacturer, Bora or something like that. All we did was investigate was on the list. All we were just trying to do is meet the standards by the city. So we didn't go through many opportunities to look at the specifications. We took the list. We're this is important. We need to get this place back into an acceptable condition as soon as possible. And we're just trying to comply with the city. And so we did not explore a lot of opportunities. So if it's on that list, that those products were presented to the owner.
All right. On attachment 7, where you gave a list of properties with composition shingle, how were those properties identified?
To the very best of our ability on a drive-by.
Just driving around the neighborhood? Okay.
Yes.
And then can you clarify the properties that are on that list? They just have composition shingle in general, but not necessarily the product that you are requesting in your appeal. Is that correct?
I would say that is a accurate statement based on my review. Yes.
And then on the appeal application, you stated applicant submitted approved roofing material previously approved by DRB that was denied arbitrarily. When you say previously approved, do you mean for a structure on the subject property or in the legal neighborhood or just in the city in general?
So actually, I apologize. What I meant by that comment, and it isn't clear now that you read it back to me, was that we selected a approved material that was then reviewed by planning, who then, the planning staff, who then indicated in a report to the DRB that this was an appropriate material. That is really what I was trying to say.
I understand, okay. That's it. I don't have any more questions. Thanks, Howard.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I just have a couple. With regard to the slate roof that presently exists, I would imagine that the leakage issue is impacted by the underlayment area, not the slate itself, but what is under the slate that is deteriorating and perhaps causing the leakage. Is that your understanding?
As we know, the slate, the underlayment is really the waterproofing membrane. We all will acknowledge that. But we also have to acknowledge that the material that protects the underlayment is important. It allows the underlayment to last. And when the underlayment gets exposed, many things can happen. Wind, rain, birds, all kinds of different things. So having an underlayment exposed, it's not designed to be exposed, is problematic.
Okay, and the slate itself, could it be replicated where it is damaged?
I think that the failure is too large, Commissioner.
All right, thank you. Yeah, go ahead.
Just one, again, just a clarification for me. This is the original roofing on this property, correct? Since 1996?
1996, that's a lifetime product. That's not made it a lifetime.
No, I understand, but it has not been replaced since 1996. Correct?
Okay, it has not been replaced since we owned,
Uh,
since we've owned it. Okay, I can't speak to what happened before. I'm sorry.
I think if I'm not mistaken, we did not find a re-roofing permit through our research. So if it was re-roofed, it was done without a permit. So it would be an accurate statement that since they purchased the home, they have now
And
re-roofed it.
Probably since 1996, but we just can't confirm that.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
If I could ask one question
sure,
of
go
staff.
ahead.
The applicant is intimating that staff reviewed their initial request and gave some sort of approval or acknowledgement of standards being met. I can't remember the exact words he's using. Can you clarify what that may be referring to and what specifically would be given to an applicant in this type of an application process?
Yes, I took in the design review application, and like any applicant, you describe the process and the possibility of it not getting approved. Explaining the neighbor input process, and then going through the findings. And then as staff was drafting the staff report and seeing if we can find the findings, not the time that they submitted the application, but the time when we're getting close to a public hearing.
Right.
It wasn't until we, the day before the published agenda, where we told the applicant that we would be able to make the findings, but not necessarily recommend approval. So
Okay.
that's the only conversations that we've had.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Yes. No, it's all right. Go
Thank
ahead.
you. And I have a question for staff as well. Having to do with a different type of material, and I don't know if staff's even thought of this, and I don't know what the planning commission will do, obviously. But if the commission were to deny this appeal and disapprove this, would staff have a recommendation for a different type of roof?
Well, that's a good question. So they're able to, they're able to re-roof with natural slate. We understand there's difficulties with that. They aren't able to re-roof with simulated slate because the pre-approved roofing material list only allows Tudor homes. And then even if they did and they wanted to go with simulated slate, they would actually have to go back to the DRC to ask for that request. So at the moment, what they're allowed to do over the counter is the simulated wood shake, which is most likely the Boral Cedar Light or the Da Vinci Multi-Width. Some people pick the Cedar Walden, but most people don't. Or ask for the composition shingle, which needs to be approved by the DRC.
That's very helpful. Thank you.
Okay, any further questions? Okay, not hearing any, let's open it up for public hearing.
Believe Commissioner Okazaki, you had a question?
Yes, I had a question. I was wondering, obviously the roof is very high, so it's very difficult to see the details, but I did see the loose slate material on the roof, but it wasn't throughout the entire roof. So I was just curious, did the owner consult with a slate company to see if the missing slates could be reinstalled or refastened to secure and still maintain the slate roof, and just repair the broken ones if they were broken, or the ones that are missing, or out of place slates? I mean, I would think that would be more cost effective if they wanted to keep the slate and just not replace the entire roof, but to fix the slates that were displaced from what I saw from the street. Is that something that the owners looked at as an option rather than doing the composition shingle for the entire complex? Because as you said, Mr. Brown, that this is supposed to be a lifetime roof. And to me, it looks like a lifetime roof. I've seen that in other buildings along Circle, and they would seem like they will last a long time. So to me, it was just a few, not a whole bunch of slate roofing material that was missing. So I just wondered if you wanted to take a look at that as an option. That would be much, much more affordable than replacing the entire roof, or even replacing it with a composition shingle, no matter how cheap that presidential roofing material is.
Am I allowed to speak?
Yeah, go ahead. He
Okay.
asked you a
Yeah.
question.
Okay, so thank you for that thought. And I can assure you that we did investigate the damage to see the extent of the damage of the existing roof. And we did an analysis as to whether or not it would be advantageous just to do some spot repairs. Our consultants advised us that, in their opinion, that is not a viable direction for a number of reasons. The first reason, from their perspective, was there was too much damage, too much failure. Second, matching the material would be nearly impossible in their opinion. And the result of that would be a hopscotch patch roof, and the aesthetics of that would not be acceptable to the owner, in their opinion. I don't know what design review or the planning commission would think about it, but we certainly would hate to go down that path, have it unsuccessful, and now we really have a problem. So yes, we did explore it. It did not seem like a viable option, and so we then went to the city, acquired the information of which roofs were available to be installed, and then followed that to the very best of our ability. By the way, that roof system that we have made application for, that was denied, is not a cheap roof. I would not describe it as a cheap roof. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, but I was just wondering, I think there are some solutions to the problem that you described. But the other thing was, can you tell me? Can you describe to me how did the slate fail? What is the failure of the slate? Slate is like a rock. So how did it fail? Did it crack? Did it? I mean, how did so many of the slate material fail? I don't understand that.
I can only tell you that it's failed, sir. I don't know how it failed. I'm not a slate roof expert, but if it's broken, it's broken.
Okay, thank you.
One final question for Mr. Brown.
Go ahead.
Just because of Mr. Okazaki, it just reminded me, and we're also assuming, and I hate to assume, that you did follow up on any remedies with the roofer, because as you pointed out, there was a lifetime guarantee. So did you go back to the roofer, assuming the roofer's still in business, to see if you had remedies for that they would replace the slate or whatever they need to do with, seeing as how they made a lifetime guarantee?
We did some investigation to the very best of our ability to find out who the manufacturer was. We don't know who the manufacturer was. So we were not able to identify anybody to make a claim against.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Does anyone wish to make a statement for, against, or about this proposal? Just indicate your desire to do so. Is anyone stepping forward?
Nobody's in the Zoom chat, and I'm verifying my email.
Okay. Well, if you don't see anybody at this time, Camelia, we'll just call the public aspect of the hearing closed.
Okay.
Okay, very well. Let's start out with the offsite individuals. Start with Commissioner Akazawi, please.
Howard, my name is pronounced
I'm sorry, I got
Okazaki.
my tongue tied.
Okazaki. Very
Okazaki,
simple.
sorry.
Like in Espanol. Okazaki. Anyway, thank you for the opportunity to express my opinion. You know, my questions were answered satisfactorily. The owner did look at that opportunity to have the slate replaced, and it sounded like that they also try to find the original manufacturer to get the warranty work done, because it was guaranteed for life. I tell you, at the distance of almost 30 feet up in the air, and from standing in the street, and due to the proximity of all the trees in the area, you don't really see, even though it's a huge complex, a large piece of property and a large roof area, it's not that easy to see that roof and what it looks like from the street. I don't think I'll be able to tell if it's going to be a slate or composition shingle, you know, when it's finally done. So personally, if the owner is willing to go with a composition shingle and they're okay with it, and as much as it meets the city's approved material, and given the fact that there's a mix of roofing material and type of housing on the Circle Drive, I'm okay with approving the request by the owner, his appeal to go with the composition shingle. So that's my opinion.
Okay, Commissioner Chang?
I mean, I share similar sentiments as Commissioner Okazaki. I think, you know, my preference, you know, if I would say what's more compatible with the home in the neighborhood, would be the Da Vinci product with the varied width slate simulated as far as aesthetics. But to Commissioner Okazaki's point, it's not very easily visible from the street, from the property. I do remember approving this same CertainTeed presidential material on an accessory structure on the same street a few years ago in design review. It was I think it was like a pool house or a guest house, and we had made that exception. But again, in that instance, the property roof line was not very visible from the street. I'm kind of on the fence. I don't think that the CertainTeed is appropriate for the neighborhood, especially for the massing and the majority of the main home on the property. But I'm open to listen to other comments by other commissioners to see their points of view. I think if the recommendation was to proceed with the Da Vinci product with the multi-width, I think I'd be more amenable than the CertainTeed though at this point.
Commissioner Fury.
Yes, I feel the same back and forth, I guess, because on one level, it is on the pre-approved list, and I'd like to think we could give our neighbors some certainty about what they should expect. And I also agree that there are very diverse numbers of roofs in this neighborhood. So I'm not sure that we could say it's incompatible with the neighborhood in light of that. In fact, I'm not a fan at all of the concrete tiles that are on several of those properties. But that ship has sailed, and so there's all these different roofing materials already on that street. But where I do feel differently is that the house itself, excuse me, and whether this product is the correct for this house. When I looked at the design guidelines, they did talk about synthetic roofs and that it should take into account architectural style and design of the house, the amount of roof exposed to public view, which yes, is not perhaps that much, but that it should be architecturally compatible with the structure as well as the neighborhood. So when I look at this, and I'm just not sure that this particular roofing material is architecturally compatible with the structure as much as say the Da Vinci slate type would be. And that also reminds me, in reviewing the design guidelines, they said that our synthetic roofing materials must be staggered. And yet when I look at all those concrete tile roofs on that property as well as other properties, if they're staggered an inch like our design guidelines, it's then we need it to be more than that. Because I just hate that look of just so uniform. It does not look natural to me. That's just an aside. So keeping in mind that we are trying to follow the design guidelines. And I also have great respect for our design review committee, who is tasked with these originally. And I do want to defer to a large extent to their opinion as well. But for me, not necessarily the neighborhood, more about the house itself, that lot, that house, that street.
Thank you. John?
Yeah. I wanted to take a little bit of time to sort of address some of the concerns that the applicant put in their appeal application. They noted that the design review board went against planning staff's recommendation to approve. The design review committee and this body as well are under no obligation to follow the recommendations of city staff. If that were the case, then there would be no purpose to having the design review process. We don't need to be here. We can all just go home and have a glass of wine and be done with it. Previously, the design review board, this is another point that the applicant brought up on their application. Previously, the design review board has approved the installation of the approved roofing material within the city boundaries. That shows to me a very extreme lack of understanding and familiarity with our residential design guidelines and with the pre-approved materials list. The pre-approved materials list is not a shopping list that you can just go pick something, and if it's on the list, you can do whatever you want with it. It's a very clear, well-written document that specifies under what conditions, on what type of home, and other specifications that are required in order to use that product without having to come to design review. it could not be clearer if you choose to read the document. The applicant says he did due diligence in pursuing collections against the manufacturer. I don't think it's the manufacturer, it's the roofer. Like Commissioner Okazaki brought up, slate is a natural rock material. It doesn't, if it's installed properly, it's a lifetime roof. If it is not installed properly, it is not a lifetime roof. But he says he does his due diligence in pursuing that, but then he says that natural slate is not on the pre-approved list. It is on the pre-approved list. So I don't know how carefully they're reading things. To the issue of neighborhood compatibility. Yes, there are lots of different materials in the neighborhood, but that's not what the residential design guidelines talk about all the time. What they're talking about, and it's very clear, to read slow, traditional architecture, homes of a traditional architectural style need to stick more closely to the traditional materials. And in that neighborhood, most of the homes, especially the larger, more stately homes, stick to the higher quality, more traditional material. And that's why I don't see that this product is compatible in that neighborhood. It's also, as an aside, the color that they have chosen is a particularly harsh contrast to the house and is not appropriate. But also that type of material is not compatible with the specific style of that home. Maybe on some colonial revivals in town, if it's a small little two-story colonial down on Sherwood or something, yeah, I can see that. This is a completely different animal. And again, that is why on the pre-approved materials list, it says this composition shingle is only pre-approved when it's already pre-existing on the home. Otherwise, it has to come here for some thoughtful analysis. I had another thought that just went right out my head. Well, I think I've made my point.
Yeah, and let me concur with everything you said on that. And Commissioner Okazaki's question was very pointed. How does a slate leak? Slates don't leak. I think it's somewhat disingenuous to say that it was the slate that caused the problem. It was obviously the installation and the underlayment that wasn't properly installed that caused the problem. And then the other thing that was stated that was somewhat concerning to me was that there is a difficulty in matching the color of the slate. This color is ubiquitous. It is not a problem at all to match. The issue, the entire issue is the original installation, which wasn't done well, apparently. But the change from a natural slate look on Circle Drive to the presidential is a really huge step down. I was on the group that recommended presidential, and we were looking at those post-World War II, south of Huntington, 2-bedroom, 1-baths, 3 2s, smaller units that were essentially covered in wood shake, where the wood shake was deteriorating, and we needed something that didn't require a complete redo of the roof buttressing and allowed a look of shake if it was staggered correctly. And presidential fit the bill, but not on Circle Drive. And that's my view.
I recollected my other additional comments, if I may.
Go ahead.
Have a bit more time. Yeah, this idea that the DRC was arbitrary. I listened to the meetings and they were not arbitrary. They were very clear. Their concern was neighborhood compatibility. It was not an arbitrary decision. The other point I wanted to make was, there are lots of other simulated shakes besides the Da Vinci. I mean, if you're going to hold yourself to just the pre-approved list, yes, there's one thing on there. And I do want to say, I'm a firm believer that we need to get more products on that list. It's just shameful that we have not paid attention to that. But Brava is a company that makes a shake or a slate, a synthetic slate. EcoStar, EnviroShake, Inspire, those are all in addition to the Da Vinci. And then lastly, I wanted to say, you know, the applicant talked about this sort of quote unquote charter or edict or directive of the DRC to encourage and assist building owners to restore and rehabilitate existing buildings in a cost-effective, sensitive manner. On the website, the following sentences, and in such a way as to be compatible with the surrounding neighborhood. He left that conveniently off. He took the language that suited his purpose. So anyway, now I'm done.
Okay. Do we have all spoken. Do we have a motion? Since you're the most.
I
separate.
thought about this and I don't, you know, Jerry brought up a very good question with staff earlier. It's like, well, if we deny it, what's going to happen?
And that was exactly my question. Did we want to
Yeah.
recommend a different product? Do we want to recommend it to come back to us? I'm not saying we should.
Yeah.
Oh,
If
Does
my
the does the director have an idea?
One option would be to engage with the applicant. There was a preference in material that was mentioned today by the commissioners. And if that's the option you would like to see as the compromise, you could approve that material today here. So they wouldn't have to go back to.
But
the-
I don't know that we have a consensus of Da Vinci. I don't know if we have a consensus of natural slate.
Well, I think in my mind, coming in here, I was of the mind that the natural slate roof needed to be refurbished and the underlayment redone, and that was the solution. And that apparently is something to be considered. But if we have other roofing products that we have to vet, we ought to be doing that beforehand.
Oh, no, yeah, I don't want to be in the job of selecting materials.
Right, exactly.
Exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
So
So I'm concerned, obviously, about where
I
this.
agree. I
leads
share
us.
that.
Yeah.
concern.
but I think that all we're looking at right now is do we or don't we
Exactly. Grant or,
support
yeah, grant
the
or deny.
DRC?
Yeah, grant or deny the
I
appeal, and
cannot-
then they
I
have to go back.
cannot Approve the request.
Okay, well, why don't you make such a motion?
Um,
And the other clarification would be that you, and I believe I could support, would make your motion based on both findings, incompatibility of the neighborhood and incompatible with the
correct.
building
Yeah.
itself.
Yes.
And I concur.
So in that light of that discussion, I would like to make a motion to deny design review case DR 22-11 at 1405 and 1411 Circle Drive based on incompatibility with the architectural style of the home and incompatibility with the neighborhood.
I second.
Okay, let's take a roll call, please.
Definitely. And for clarification, motion was made by Commissioner Dustin and seconded by Commissioner Wright. For roll call, Chair Brody,
I concur.
Vice Chair Chang,
Yes.
Commissioner Dustin,
Yes.
Commissioner Wright,
Yes.
and I'm assuming alternate Commissioner Okazaki is a
No.
voting member for this item.
No.
Okay, so then that's 4-1 and denial. Yeah.
Okay, we could have the second item on the agenda, please.
The discussion regarding the pre-approved roofing material list. In 2020, the city council directed staff to evaluate the city's pre-approved roofing materials, colors, and application list to consider the addition and or deletion of certain products from the list. To help with this project, staff created a committee of local residents that included Howard Brody, John Dustin, and Jennifer Giles. After a thorough review of the products presented by staff, the committee concluded that the current list of pre-approved roofing material products was the best that market could offer. Most importantly, none of the products found through staff's research were suited for the architectural styles of the city's current housing stock. On June 25th, 2021, the city council discussed updating the city's pre-approved roofing material list. During the meeting, staff presented roofing material samples and brochures to the city council that were reviewed by the aforementioned committee. The council directed staff to find and research additional roofing materials would proven use a minimum of 5 years, including new asphalt composition shingles to be presented and discussed with the design review committee, and then having the planning commission decide on any amendments to the list. Staff is seeking guidance from the planning commission as to what the commission recommends that DRC and staff consider during the research and discussion phase of the project prior to reaching the commission for consideration. Previously, DRC members have discussed updating the current list to remove the Boral Monterey Shake as the material has been discontinued and replace the Certainty Presidential Composition Fiberglass in Country Gray with Certainty Presidential TL Composition Fiberglass in Country Gray, Shadow Gray, and Autumn Blend color. Additionally, staff has received requests from the general public that the city's pre-approved roofing material list include options that are widely available, since a number of options included in the list are currently backlogged for several months. Contractors and residents have also expressed that they would like to see economical options included in the list. Guidance provided by the commission will assist staff and the DRC in providing the commission with viable options that will be beneficial to the city's residents and maintain the architectural integrity of the city's residential inventory. Thank you.
And just to add to that, I know in conversations we had previously, both Commissioner Dustin and Chair Brody were involved in the previous research and ad hoc committee, and obviously with COVID, that didn't facilitate things,
Right.
made it more difficult. But we also, we want to make sure that this is fruitful, that when this gets to this body, that we have something that's presentable, that will facilitate you to make decisions on these materials. So that's really the basis of this discussion. Obviously it's not to approve anything, not to pre-approve anything. It's just to kind of get your thoughts in terms of what you would like staff and DRC to kind of take a look at. So that when we come back to you, we will have some viable options.
I think what we really need to do, and John was part of this, is to kind of bring back and reinstitute this roofing study and put a cap on it, and get back to you with some strong recommendations as to how to proceed, what to add, what to omit. What is your thought on it, John?
When I was hearing Eric read this summary of our experience, it struck me a little different than what I remember it to be. I mean, I was a little disappointed in participating in that group, because it was sort of like we were pre-fed a filtered number of materials. I mean, the previous director brought us a sort of subset. He sort of went out and looked at stuff and then said, here are some things that might be interesting. But I just, with a few clicks, going on Google and looking around, I mean, there's lots of stuff out there. But we didn't really, our body didn't really consider it. It was what he found at like roofing supply businesses in the San Gabriel Valley. Now, maybe that is a smart thing to do, because you'd be wasting a lot of time looking at stuff you can't buy here. I don't know. But I just felt like there was a little bit of a restriction there. So when I hear him say, that the current list is sort of the best that the market could offer,
It isn't.
it isn't. I mean, even the landmark TL, why is that on our list? They've moved on. There's much better products out there. So
Yeah, we've got to revisit this thing and have the freedom to do so, and have the input of staff assisting us in that regard, not necessarily directing us, but assisting us.
And are you anticipating the input from the public?
Oh,
I'm thinking we
absolutely.
still have our member here
Absolutely.
who would like to speak to us.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and he will get his opportunity. He'll get his 3 minutes in a moment.
I mean, I know that we have contractors that do work in town that would probably be eager to throw their 2 cents in. I know we have residents. I know Mr. Johnson has attended many meetings where we've considered roofing materials. I think, I don't know that it was really helpful to have Howard and me on that group because we already get a chance at saying our say here.
Yeah,
And
you've got a background in this. I have a bit of a background in it. I think it helps.
no, yeah, but I would like to see, I mean, it was 3 people. It was. So,
So our thought is, unless someone has a different thought, to reinstitute this group and to put a cap on when we're supposed to come forth with a new and revised pre-approved roof materials listing. What is your thought on that? That's the way I'm seeing it.
yeah, I mean,
For clarification, when you say reinstitute this group, you mean,
Meet, discuss. We could do it by Zoom.
but are you talking about the planning commission itself?
no,
Or
no,
you
he's talking
no,
about
no.
the pre-approved roofing material sort of task force. that-
Yeah.
Okay, so
Right.
I just want to make sure that if our city attorney can weigh in just to find out how we can go about doing that.
My gut feel on this is that we have a subcommittee established. And when the subcommittee comes up with a conclusion, it has to go by the DRC as well as the planning commission. And then it would go to the city council for final approval.
Actually, the planning commission would approve it.
Yeah, I was confused about that too when we did it.
All right, so we don't have to go to the council.
Steve?
Isidro, I think the subcommittee idea would be a good approach to this issue.
Would the commission have to somehow anoint that subcommittee or task force?
But we'd probably want to bring that back as an agendized item
Absolutely.
to do
Okay.
that. So it'd be at a future meeting. There's not any item on the agenda tonight regarding the creation of a subcommittee.
Yeah, and I certainly welcome the public's input on all of this, as well as perhaps even a member of the public who would want to participate. I have no problem with something like that. And a staff member or members. So that's the way I see proceeding on this. It's a matter of how we're going to organize it. And Isidro, you have any thoughts as to the number, as to the circumstance of who on the planning department would be appropriate for that role?
Sure, I probably want to discuss that during the agendized item, but I have some ideas.
Okay, great. Okay, super. Do we have any comment from the public on that? Oh, I see Mike Johnson raised his hand.
I don't know whether you received it. I did email just before the meeting started but what I wanted to say about the whole thing. It runs about a 5-minute speech if you want to hear it, or if you don't, if that's not appropriate time.
I'd
got
love
5
to
minutes.
hear it. If you can keep it in 3 minutes, we'd even love it even more.
I can do the best I can.
Okay,
I read the staff report. I found it encouraging but incomplete. In the last 8 years, I've spoken or was an observer of many design review committee meetings and a few planning commission meetings concerning specific roof proposals. I have never asked for or received any compensation for this work. I just think San Marino can do better for its residents in the matter of roofs. My first comment is that I think there should be a specific process for continual supplementation and change to the pre-approved list for roofs in San Marino. Maybe it should be done once a year and have specific rules to follow, but there needs to be a process for change. Right now, this is important, unless you already have a composition roof, your choice for a new roof that avoids a trip to the design review committee or the use of wood appears to be limited to one lightweight tile. That's fine if it's a good product. but as I understand it, the one most heavily used is criticized for changing color, brittleness, and hard to get. I think that may be the one you say is leaving. My personal survey of roofs in some 600 homes in the city areas of this, in 3 areas of the city indicates that wood roofs are on their way out and flat tile is in. The most widely used roofing material in this country at this time is what we call composition or composition fiberglass. However, a homeowner can only get it if he or she already has it or is willing to go to the design review committee. The trip may take 6 months in some cases, and there are no guarantees. I think the already have it requirement should be repealed. Having a pre-approved product should be protection enough from any unhappy product choices. And I agree that there is some composition that is not attractive. In the matter of high-end composition material, the January 2020 issue of Consumer Reports rates Owens Corning's Berkshire composition over the CertainTeed process that's already approved. It might be worthwhile investigating, particularly since Owens Corning is a Fortune 500 company listed on the New York Stock Exchange. That makes their guarantee of something of value. I can get a copy of the article to you if you'd like to see it. The matter of stone-coated steel in the shingle style was not mentioned in the staff report. Stone-coated steel was ignored entirely. But my personal opinion is that it is the best product out there. It is lighter weight, longer lasting than any of the others, and with the right manufacturer, it is walkable. The right product is also attractive. You might look at 2765 Lorraine Road. During the consideration of roofing materials, attention should be given to which types will allow the installation of solar tiles. In my mind, we are not far from the day when the use of solar tiles will be mandatory. Also, please consider that waiting for a new roof is sometimes difficult. Well, you know that. While the subject is being examined, what attention should be paid to the opinion of those people living in the so-called neighborhood of the proposed roof? If all or a substantial majority of them approve the roof, should it be automatically approved? After all, they're the ones who'll be looking at it. In my 9-house neighborhood on my street, there are wood composition, flat tile, steel, and a Tesla roof. They all get along. We like them all. That's easy to understand when you find that all San Marino homes are custom. I don't know if there are any two exactly alike. My count from the historic survey of San Marino homes done some 2 or 3 years ago is that there are at least 30 separate styles of homes in this city. So over 30 separate styles of homes. Homeowners can freely paint their house most any color or colors, and certainly all landscape plans seem to be different. There should be substantial leeway with roofs. That's all I have. Probably too fast.
Yeah, some very good points about solar compatibility and once a year having it reviewed. I think these are excellent ideas, Mike. Okay, I think we have one gentleman who will start you with a new 3-minute cap. So have at it. Just give us your name again and do this, as we used to say and still do it de novo. Start all over again.
My name is Albert Siniscali, roofing contractor, 47 years. I live in North Hollywood, want to do a roof in the presidential TL, which is my concern is the top of the line shingle. The Da Vinci is 100% garbage. It's plastic. Someone would be an idiot to put that on their roof. You don't put plastic on your roof. There's too much plastic falling apart. Da Vinci will fail well before its time. And that's guaranteed because there was other products in plastic that failed. This other guy with the slate, the natural slate, to repair a natural slate, it's hard to do because you have to go underneath the other slate. It's almost impossible to get any nails in that. The slate will crack by itself. So it ain't the roofer, it's the way he nailed it and he cracked the slate. And the 30-pound underlayment is the underlayment for natural slate. But you can do a side of the roof. You can do, instead of trying to repair an area, you can do a section that's damage. You can do that and it's a lot cheaper. But natural slate today is $700 a square just for the material. Da Vinci is $700 a square for the material. Presidential TL is $250. So actually you're taking the customers, the people to the cleaners why you call it a high-end product, which is not. Tile is only $250 also. So, and the two-piece tile is about $300 a square, which is on your city hall, which is a nice looking roof. And you can put it over 2x6s. You cannot put tile over 2x6s. The house will collapse. And I have 43 of my own questions on the test, and one of them is not to put tile roofs over 2x6s. My own question on the test. And if you want to get advice, I can give you advice because I know every single product out there, every way they make it, and what's inside each material. The perlite, actually your fiberglass shingles, for that make it cool roof, it's called the PPG clear. It's a car paint that's put on top of the shingles, which make it a reflective up to 27%. They have to be 20% to be reflective. 27% is your cool roof. So there's different ways, and I know all the products on that. If you go to the western states, they have people at goes contractors board, and they might help you out in deciding what material to use. I can help you out too if you like. It's up to you. Don't cost you nothing. Because I do that with the contractors board. I look at roofs for the contractors board. And I go to court for the contractors board and Zoom meetings for the contractors board. And I just partnered in with another person that has a B1 license, and we can do solar. And the solar shingles are in the material now. You can do that, but hardly anybody's doing that because they do not put out enough weight. It's 440 watts today per panel. And you need the extra panel for the 20% draw that you lose going down to the meter. So they're just putting the panels on top of the roof today instead of putting it inside the roof, make it look like the roof, even though the panels are waterproof. So there's different ways and different styles. And there's besides the presidential TL, the Certainty, Owens Corning is one of the worst shingles out there. They're thinner than anybody else. They're actually an eighth of an inch thinner. I went to the contractor board against Owens Corning because of the sad job, the sad thickness they are. The Eichel shingle is cheaper and it's thicker. It's an 1/8 inch thicker. So it's a no-brainer to go with Eichel, because Eichel makes Armor Shake, which is their presidential style. Also GAF makes a Grand Canyon, which is their presidential style. Because presidential is 4.5 inches to the weather, and 5 5/8 for GAF. Armor Shake is 8 inches to the weather. And the presidential design is matching the wood shingle, not the wood shake. Wood shingles are 5 inches to the weather. Wood shake is 10 inches to the weather. And there's still wood shake being put on in San Marino. And last year for wood shake in LA County was 1980. That was the last year to put any wood on in the city. You can only do repairs.
Thank you very much.
I'm just trying to give you some knowledge about different things, and the person most of it was right. Some of it was wrong. Some of it you just don't have the knowledge that I do in the roofing. You're not a roofing contractor. You know, if you need the help, I'm welcome to give you any help or any advice or anything or recommendation, you know, in the future.
Appreciate that
You know.
offer. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
And we have his information
Yes.
for purposes of any kind of a task force we have.
And
We
have
can let you
about-
know about it.
We have about 5 people up at the contractor board. That's all there is now. They want to go up there. That have the knowledge 30 years or more in the roofing trade.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. Really appreciate it. Thank you. Okay. I think.
I guess our recommendation is to agendize this for a future meeting
Yeah, but we
to,
ought to be doing something between now and then, other than just agendize it. We should have some direction.
I was gonna say, we asked staff, have we given them everything they need to move forward, or is there something else that we can do
Well,
tonight?
that's a good point. Isidro, anything you would prefer with regard to the direction? In other words, if we ask you to put together what you believe to be a group that would, a subgroup, if you will, that would review this entire roofing scenario and come back within a time certain with recommendations.
So we'll agendize it for the next meeting, which will be in November. At that point, staff will make recommendations. That will be up to this board to confirm or make adjustments to that to that recommendation.
And I think one of, actually, two of the comments made by Mike Johnson, that we would have a standing subcommittee to annually review, I think is an excellent idea.
I agree, because we don't want to be in
No,
the
we
same
don't.
position 10 years down the road.
I agree as
Exactly.
well.
And then the other aspect, and Mike pointed out, and I think it was raised also by the gentleman who gave us a lecture on roofing, I think is the solar aspect. We ought to be looking at that in the future.
So
Factor that in.
the city council gave us a clear directive, which was for the pre-approved list to be updated
Yeah.
by DRC making a recommendation to the planning commission. Obviously, a civic committee is within those bounds. Any type of subcommittee to update the list yearly would have to come from the city council's directive. However, we do have planned early next year the joint meetings between planning commission and city council, and I think that would be a great idea to bring that up at that moment, and then city council can then give direction to staff as to how they would like to proceed on that
I'd
matter.
like to proceed, I'd like to have some indication that we are proceeding expeditiously on this, because we've kind of let 2 years, thanks to COVID, go by
Sure.
without making real progress. So I'd like, based upon the wherewithal and the capabilities of staff and as well as ourselves, to put some time limits on coming up with recommendations and so forth.
Sure. We can work on that. Once we establish the subcommittee, we can work on those
Great.
measures.
Okay. Are we
I think there's
Item 3, the minutes.
minutes.
minutes? Anyone have any
I
comment to make on minutes?
would move to approve the minutes of September 22nd, I believe it is, or no, 28th. Or I
Yes,
just had
I'll
it.
second that motion.
And I just want you to know, I saw no changes.
Wow.
Oh, my God.
Just wanted to say for the record,
Staff-
I thought they were perfect.
Staff deserves.
It's a red letter day.
We like it when you give praise to staff. So thank you.
Okay, we have a second on that?
Second.
All right, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, so we have.
I abstain.
Okay, are we done?
I think we have a director's report and it'll be really short.
Okay,
I had the opportunity to speak during City Talk, which is promoted by the City Club. And I spoke on 2 items and I also brought them up in DRC. And the reason I bring this up is since, Camelia and I are veterans and haven't been here 1 year yet. And we've had really difficult conversations with some of our residents in regards to changes to plans and how they came about. A lot of it was so-and-so, previous staff member said it was okay. So that's why I proceeded. And I want the community to know that obviously there's certain things that the community development director staff can approve. But when there's a project that's approved by DRC and Planning Commission, that scope is really tiny. And so if there's any changes, it's really prudent for you as the property owner, your contractor, to come forward, speak with staff. We will let you know what we can and cannot approve and what your options are. And if we do approve something, you really should receive either some form of communication from staff saying, yes, the approval staff has approved your request and you can move forward. Better yet, staff should stamp the revised plans. Again, we've had really difficult, conversations. I still am having those conversations, but staff has a really narrow scope in terms of what amendments we can approve to something that DRC or Planning Commission has approved. So it's really more of a message to the community. Whatever you get approved from DRC Planning Commission, please follow those plans. And if there's always changes in construction, something just doesn't work or didn't pan out, or you feel like this product is better than that product, please come forward, speak to staff. We will help you out, guide you through that process. The second one is pickleball courts are now in fashion, I guess.
Yeah.
And I just want our residents to know that if you come forward with a request for pickleball court, that requires a conditional use permit, which will then mean that it would have to come before this commission in order for it to be for the determination to be made. So I just want that message to be out. And in the spirit of praising staff, there's a couple of things that I wanted to mention. Typically, when people come forward, planning commission or city council, it's because of having a difficult time, for whatever reason. And sometimes that doesn't shed a good light on staff. Well, the past week, 2 weeks, I received a couple of compliments that I want to just identify out because I think it highlights the hard work of the community development department. If you recall, actually, no, it was DRC. There was this project that went before DRC a couple times. Really nice home. DRC from the get-go recognized the efforts of the property owner and her architect. Weren't able to approve it the first time around. It was really difficult for the property owner because she had gone through COVID, a change of staff a few times. Camellia took over that project, guided them through the process, and they just wrote this wonderful email complimenting Camellia on her work. So I wanted to highlight that. Additionally, today, the reason you see them really happy is because they were well fed during lunch. Property owner provided lunch for the community development department because of the great efforts that were made and professionalism on their project. So I really wanted to highlight Camellia, Eric, Victor, Laura, who's our enforcer, Reese, Peter, Mark, Alexis, all of them, Savag. They were just, they've extended their professionalism to this project and were called out by this applicant and provided lunch. And so that's why they're really happy today. So I wanted to highlight those because I think, again, it's been a difficult couple of years because of COVID, staff turnover, and obviously projects are delayed. They're still delayed on the planning commission side, but we're getting there. And I just wanted to highlight those accomplishments. So thank you for that
Thank you.
opportunity.
Yeah, I think the planning staff is doing a hell of a job and is certainly appreciated by myself and the rest of this commission.
And in addition to that, again, I'd like to thank all of you in DRC. A lot of people think that you guys are extended or paid staff. You're not. You're volunteers, you're residents. So we would like to thank your support and for being volunteers. It's really great. Thank you so much.
So what was for lunch?
Pizza.
Nice.
Pizza and wings.
We never got a dinner. Okay, and with that, we'll adjourn.
I have a question
Yeah.
of the director. I was just wondering, are there any lawsuits against the city right now dealing with our denial of any projects?
I am not aware of any lawsuits. I will check. I know there was any pending litigation on a project, but
Right.
those are usually identified in the city council agendas, but I will check.
Yeah, I think we requested that we hear about any potential, I guess, lawsuits against the city council or on a project.
Staff will work with the city. Staff will work.
We wanted, the planning commission wanted to know if there was any, number one. The
Well,
second question is, what's the status of our issue with affordable housing and the zoning changes that we submitted to the state housing authority?
I believe you mean the housing element, and the housing element was
Right.
submitted to the state for review. The state responded back with comments. Staff is working through those comments and will be going through the public process soon.
Thank you.
No problem.
Okay, thank you, folks. Appreciate your interest and attendance and involvement.
Okay.